I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. We're doing a rare late night pod to make sure it's fresh for you tomorrow, leading into holiday week. We don't know who's traveling where. People are going to be on the road. Andrew Quo, are you ready for this holiday week? Big Thursday coming up.
Huge Thursday coming up, man. I'm already looking past Thanksgiving to Christmas. The late night cookies, man. It's Christmas time. Santa Claus, we're living the dream, man. It's called Cookies at Night.
Yeah, the last time we did frequent night episodes was in the pandemic, and they'd be interrupted by fireworks that were given by the police in a PSYOP operation to our neighbors, who then blew them up, keeping us up at night and distracting us from our podcasting duties.
Right. The goal of the government, it was a big disruption for podcasts, perfect pods. They didn't want the world to get those perfect pods, so they did what they had to do.
Yeah, it was a joint effort to exhaust people with the noise of fireworks so they couldn't protest in the morning, and then also to disrupt perfect pods that were a rallying cry against the PSYOP operations of the NYPD and the Federales, the Alphabet Boys, and so on and so forth.
Listen, it was an anxious time for the pre-Brunson Knicks, and that didn't help my state of mind. I'll say that.
So we've got Black Friday coming up. Maybe we'll put some stuff on sale. Maybe not. I don't know. Haven't really thought it out.
Do you purchase things on Black Friday?
Never. I don't think I ever have.
I mean, even I know it's lame, but like sometimes, you're eyeing a pair of like kitchen scissors that cost $40 inexplicably, but get great reviews everywhere, and they knock the price down to $30. What are we doing here? Not buying shit?
I mean, I'm not trying to say I've opted out of Black Friday. I just think of it more as, it sounds like you're talking about Cyber Monday behavior.
It's a bunch. Well, Black Friday is like TVs and stuff. Like, are we talking about Cabbage
when
Patch Kids?
When I think of Black Friday, it's like, all right, brave the hordes out at the mall or wherever, Best Buy, because they've got 17 TVs that they're selling for a fraction of its normal price, and you go out there and like bring your nunchucks and bring your brass knuckles, be ready to fight. And
what are we in
American
Turtle
dream.
Bay? What are we hanging out with Charlie Villanueva up in? I don't know. I that whole scene is kind of hurting, sort of like Dime Square. There's not really many places to trample people to get to blenders. You know what I mean? Like Bed Bath & Beyond is kind of gone everywhere. Like these big box stores, like Best Buy barely has anything in it, and that's on Broadway.
I mean, you're right. It's the Amazon effect, the big box department store. Like, you can't even get trampled there if you try.
I'm trying to get trampled over here.
I'm over here rolled up in a carpet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get trampled. I'm sitting or lying. I'm prone on the floor of a of a Bed Bath & Beyond, just hoping that a stampede of people looking for good deals will arouse me by stomping on my head.
Yo, Nick Nurse is clutching that Roomba. Like, someone step on me with your feet. I'm lying here with this Roomba. Someone please step on me.
If you had to pick one place in New York on Black Friday, like you have one shot to get stampeded, could you even find a place where it's possible?
I mean, it has to be maybe like the Best Buy in Midtown. Like, we're not talking sneakers. We're not talking like Louis bags. Like, we're talking blenders.
I mean, right, like the Target at by Barclays Center? Does that work? Like
That's a bleak target. I go in there sometimes. That's a bleak one. I go into.
It's just very tough to get trampled right now.
Trying to get my Nick Nurse on over here.
Stomp me out.
Do you think Nick Nurse would ever make a New York Times crossword puzzle? And what would the clue be?
Yeah, I don't know. I think like it would have to be something about like a theme, soul, like the jokes.
Yep.
Like, little words you can use in multiple ways, soul, arch, things like that. Really get down in the trenches with Coach Nurse. But I was laughing today because it was a very easy Sunday puzzle, and I'm not saying this boastfully. It just happened to be a specifically very easy one.
They're the easiest of the week, no? Or are they the hardest? Friday's the hardest, right?
So basically, on Monday, it's really easy. I would say it gets gradually harder, or it's supposed to, intentionally, until Saturday, which is the hardest. And then Sunday, I guess would say is probably about the equivalent of a Wednesday. And it's overall difficulty, but it's bigger. And there's usually themes, there's longer clues. So it's harder than a Wednesday because it's more expansive, and there's certain tricks and things you have to figure out, like rebuses and these other ideas. But it's not super hard. But today's really easy, and it wasn't good. I'm not one of those crossword snobs who hates on the puzz. They're sitting there being like, "Oh, the puzz sucks." I'm not doing that.
Do you time yourself?
Yeah, well, it automatically does it. So this was like one of the fastest I'd ever done the Sunday one. And it was under 20 minutes. And it's like, again, it was because it was full of dad jokes that were about Thanksgiving. It was just really a boring, not good puzzle. But it did mark one momentous occasion. The arrival of no cap as a crossword clue. And being that I do the puzzle most days, or at least look at it most days, I would say I do not believe there is a recorded incident of no cap being put in the New York Times crossword puzzle until today.
Is this a Will Shortz classic? Is Will Shortz still do them?
He still edits them, different writers. But like they'll you can tell when they're trying to get into using some slang.
Of course.
Like they try to contemporize these things. One thing that was kind of humbling was going back and because using the app you can get all the way back to like puzzles from like 1994 or something, and trying to do even Monday puzzles from 1994 because it's just the reference points are so different, the pop culture is so different. Something that was from 30 years ago back then is from like the 50s or whatever.
Right. Like, homie, don't play that. Raise the roof. Jump around.
But I'm saying it's those you can still get because we know them. It's their like reference points and even like the celebrities that they're name checking and the movies and stuff are from like 1945 and the 50s.
Right,
like we just don't know them. I really struggled to do even the easiest ones.
Right, because they're kind of pop culture quizzes as well. It's like Jeopardy, right? Jeopardy is kind of figures out if you're paying attention or not how much you know. But yeah, I was never I'm not a puzzle guy in that sense. Do you do like Wordle?
I'll do Wordle. I think it's not that great of a puzzle. It's fast though. You can usually do it right away.
Right.
And like I think what is worst about it is if you do it and you forget that you've done it and then you go back to the app and it opens up. Let me read you the message. It's so humiliating. It says, "Hi Wordler, great job on today's puzzle. Check out your progress," and you can look at your stats. Hi, every time I see "Hi Wordler," it makes me so ashamed that I still do Wordle every now and then.
The Wordle joke in the Killer movie was funny. We talked about it last week, but I actually ended up seeing it because that was a Zodiac reference, right? The Killer was a comedy. It was a funny movie, man. I know people hate it, but I was really relieved and rejoiced to find out that it was a great movie, and I did not hate it.
Yeah, I know you specifically said before we started recording that you don't want to revisit it, and here we are.
I know, but Wordle. I mean, Wordle is the most boring thing ever until it pops up in a movie, and I'm like, cool. It's like, especially in an assassin movie. Come on.
I mean, we
does
didn't really
Wordle,
talk
and
about
he's
it.
an assassin.
Well, he doesn't do Wordle, right?
No, it was a guy, but he thinks about Wordle. He's like, some guy doing Wordle.
Did you think it was a comedy when you saw it?
I was laughing more than I thought I would be.
It wasn't as funny as the scene where the drummer from the movie about the drummer gets hit by a car. Like, that was funny. But this is not as funny as that.
Well, every time a Morrissey song or a Smith song came up, funny. When a guy is chasing him, trying to murder him, and the guy screams, "Are you the Dominican Republican?" I thought that was funny. Like, the Wordle line was funny.
He used the name George Jefferson on one of the checks.
Yeah, I mean,
It was a comedy. The
was
throwing
funny.
stuff out
Right.
all the time is
Right.
that was for comedic purposes. It wasn't to show that he's dedicated to his craft. It was to show that he's a freaking weirdo.
right. Like, The Sopranos could be considered, like, being funny is a part of The Sopranos bag. This new Fincher movie is not complete without these jokes.
Yeah. Anyway, just wanted to get a little background on your Fincher thoughts.
Yeah. I
Also in the news, what was going on? You know, we're staying abreast of our pop culture and all that. Out of the blue, no pun intended, Andre 3000 says, "I'm going to put out an album," and it's New Blue Sun, and it's alternatively described as a jazz flute album or an ambient album, or maybe how else could you describe it? A
New
minimalist
age.
album, new
Yeah.
age album. Yeah, there's a lot
Jazz,
of ways of
whatever.
describing it. And he announced it, and then boom, it came out. Like, almost, within a day or two of us finding out that this album existed, there it was, ready to be listened to.
But it had
any thoughts?
There was a lead-in because Zach Baron had a full feature ready for it. GQ had done like a little 30-minute vignette for it, so people knew about this record coming out.
Oh, for sure. I just meant we heard that it was coming out, and then there it was. There wasn't like a big, long rollout. It hadn't been rumored, as far as to my knowledge. But yes, it's already out. That's what I'm getting to.
I mean, I am so long-winded about so many of these ideas that popped into my tiny brain when I heard this news. But like the first thought I had was, I miss weird pockets of people who are interested in things, and to hear that he was doing something so niche was kind of exciting at first, because I expected the internet to kind of foster all these small groups of people who are into specific things like flute music. And there's a scene. My friend was like, "I heard it. There's 2 better flute albums that came out this year. It's fine, but it's not even the best flute album of this year." I'm like, damn. But it takes resources to like maintain this community online. It's not as easy as like burning a compact disc and like putting 10 of them in a good record store in New York City. It's hard to like cultivate this. So like I was happy to hear that he was attempting this, because it made me fond of like artists trying new stuff.
So my thing with 2 points. One is that I listen to some jazz flute, some Yusef Lateef every now and then. Not an expert. I wouldn't even say I'm a big jazz flute buff. Not necessarily, but listen to a few of it. I kind of I know what it sounds like. And Bobby Humphrey, I like that stuff. It's cool. But mostly stuff from like the 70s or 60s. And that's not quite as ambient as what Andre was doing on this album. But I listened to it, and I'm, again, not an aficionado of the genre in a way that I can determine whether, these are his reference points, or this is good or bad because of this. I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it. I put it on, let it play in the house. No, like, cool project. from my understanding, he worked with a lot of accomplished jazz musicians on it. People who've played with the friends of ours from like Gang Gang Dance and stuff like that. So yeah, but I think the project is cool. So I'm not judging him on that. I think Andre did something cool, and this is a passion project, and he also hopefully will lend his celebrity to the success of other people who partnered with him on this, and maybe they can tour, and this can be a boon to their career. But one thing I did sort of take exception to a little bit, though, was Andre's suggestion that as he nears 50, he doesn't have stuff to rap about. He doesn't have stuff to say. And the flip side of that would be that, rap is a young man's game, and that the genre hasn't quite aged with him or hasn't evolved with him. And he said it in a kind way, but it's also, there's also an implication there that the genre is limited in a way that maybe it's difficult to express yourself as an adult through the format of rapping or something like that. Did you have any thoughts about his comments along the lines of like, what am I going to talk about? Give me a colonoscopy, and why would I be rapping now? Did you have any thoughts about that Andre's rationale for not putting out a rap album?
Well, like, this is like not the first time he mentions like, oh, when I put out Hey Ya, my career was over because that was so perfect. I'm like, that was a tremendous tremendous song. Like, yo, I was thinking like the music world kind of stood still for a couple of weeks, but that happens like once a year with like a release, and Outkast was on top of their game when they put out that double album. So like, I'm like, yo, it wasn't that hot, man. Like, there's been other great songs. Like, we can chill on that. And I respect his kind of like turn towards like, Lauryn Hill kind of had kind of a similar path of self-discovery. Like, he has a kid with Erykah Badu. Like, the dude, his world is huge. And I find it also a bit condescending when he's just like, I did the best thing ever. Why would I want to lower myself to your standards again? I'm like, it wasn't that good. Like, no one's calling that album a classic record. Like, Outkast is underrated, I think, still, but chill a little bit. Basically what he's saying is he ran out of ideas. So at first I read it as like a slight to other people, and then I was like, oh, he's admitting defeat, and that's fine. And when I heard the album, I'm like, this sucks. He's been defeated. And I have to be honest, the song titles reveal that this is bullshit. Like, the first title of the first track is called I Swear I Really Wanted to Make a Rap Record, but this literally is the way the wind blew me this time. When the wind did what?
The wind did what now?
Yeah. Another track is called That Night in Hawaii When I Turned Into a Panther and Started Making These Low Register Purring Tones That I Couldn't Control. Shit was wild.
So you had a tweet talking about this that I thought was quite funny. And you were like, we've all go through a phase, as whether it's artists or musicians, that writing really long titles seems like a clever approach. And then you get over it? Is that
yes?
And then it's very cringe?
You have to go through it. I feel like everybody who's tasked to title something for their work always has this inclination. I'm like, you gotta just do it and get through with it, because sadly everyone knows what you're doing and you cannot see it until you do it. And the minute you do it, try to forget it because it's embarrassing as hell. And it took Andre a long time to get there, but he got there. And now I bet he won't do it again if he does another flute record, number 2, more flutes. But what I mean that it reveals itself, it's like, if he's not going to take this seriously, and titles are really important, if he's not going to take it seriously, then I'm not going to take it seriously. So when I hear it, I'm like, this is a joke. I'm not going to fall for this. Like, he has this wonderful footage of him, like, with a flute rolling up to people and talking to them, being like a genuinely nice guy. And it doesn't have to make a good record. Like, I think we want to believe this is something more than it is. and it really isn't. And the sounds are nice, but there's many nice sounds out there on my streaming services. And like I thought about this thing Oliver Zahm said, the guy who did Purple, and I've mentioned to you before. It's like in France, like you can do one great thing and they'll celebrate you forever, a long time or forever. In America, they judge you on the last thing you did, and if it's bad, everything before that is invalidated, and that's really frustrating. So I gotta say, Andre and Outkast, like he's a god level artist, with the greats. He will go down in history as not only one of the top rappers, but one of the top musicians ever. I think Outkast was wildly inventive and influential and productive. This record sucks.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because it was Andre who said you're only as good as your last hit, or at least was discussing that that sort of mentality on, I want to say, like Elevators or something off of Equimini, which was when he did rap a lot. And I made this point on social media. I was like, guys, Andre hasn't rapped regularly in 25 years.
Yeah.
25 years. He had a little motion there where he was doing guest appearances. He jumped on Unk's record and a bunch of other people. And, you know, like a mild comeback. It felt like another rap album was brewing, but it wasn't.
He made music for an animated show, I believe, on like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or something.
Yeah, no, he did some music here and there. And obviously, you know, the album with Hey Ya had maybe a little bit of rapping, but if I remember correctly, there was not much at all, if any. I mean, that was not a rap album. Yeah. So when I say 25 years, I'm really talking about the album before that one.
Yeah.
Whichever one that one was. Whether that was, I don't know, whatever the title. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So he was just kind of biding his time until he could get to the colonoscopy excuse. He's like, fuck. Yeah, it's right. Like, oh man, I'm 30. I got 15, 17 years to go before I can say, I can't rap, man. What am I going to talk about? My colon problems? Fiber? How could I rap? I'm so old. The guy's hated it forever.
He's allowed to miss with this. This was a huge miss, I thought. And, like, it's okay. It doesn't really change the way I feel about him. But and the rollout was so heavy, and people cared about it. Like, there was a PR push for this record, so he definitely wanted to say something here. Like, not that he's back, but he's just like, open your minds. Whatever you thought, think again. And I'm like, okay, I hate it. And
I mean, for me, I just think that the album's, it's fine. It's
fine.
Like, I put it on. I'm like, all right. It sits in the background. It's 80 minutes of, you know, ambient, light hints of grooves. Okay.
It's been done before, right? Yeah. Like, it's not innovative. The idea is innovative. I mean, it would be cool if Taylor Swift did like an album with just a xylophone, you know, with a vibraphone, you know, like, I don't know, like, what would be surprising or an artistic leap, but like,
yeah, just to that exact point and one you made earlier, I'm not accusing Andre of not taking this seriously, because he went out and got the right people from what I've been told. But there is, like, when you talk about the titles and say that there's like something a little corny going on with these titles, yeah. Andre, yeah. And you're like, did you just pick jazz flute because it was like funny?
Yeah.
Like, oh, the jazz flute, like the Anchorman.
Right. It feels like a real
Ron Burgundy.
Yeah. It sort of does feel like a frat joke, and he's very well connected and well loved he seems like a great guy. And like, so of course he's going to get the right people on this. But everything about it doesn't feel like he's like really thought it through. The titles are not thought through. If they are, really weird.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about him not wanting to rap, and again, I don't think he needs to rap. He doesn't owe us anything. He put out classic after classic after classic from, his late teens through his mid-20s. He gave us maybe the best like American group of the last 50 years. Whatever. Maybe I'm being, over the top about that, but there is an argument that Outkast is that good of a band.
No arguments here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were the best. He doesn't owe us anything. I'm not saying, dude, why wouldn't you rap? Man, it's his prerogative. He doesn't have to do it if he doesn't want to. I think his excuses are kind of bullshit when he just doesn't want to say, I don't feel like rapping. I don't think it's that cool. It doesn't excite me. To his first track, like, I really wanted to rap, but no, you didn't, because if you did, you would have.
Yeah.
And also when he even talks about like the sort of ageist element of rap, I'm like, yeah, and that's true that most people's careers don't last into their late 40s, because that would mean that your career lasted 20 years, and
right.
that's very rare.
Right.
But we do know guys like MF Doom, for example, just guys, have been able to maintain their talent as they got older. And Andre always spoke from a place of maturity, even when he was really young. And that was that's why people gravitated to him. He had this poetic sense of as I said, maturity that was incredible for a guy who was 22 years old. And that's also why people love Nas when Nas was a 16-year-old, because you could tell that his brain was different from the average 16-year-old.
I mean, to Andre's credit, he years ago he was like, I'm in a rut, man. I'm trying, but like I cannot reproduce the energy from Hey Ya. And he always mentions this song, and I'm like, fair enough, but he mentions like being in a rut, being stuck, having the yips. He talks about it. He was just like, this is not coming out of me. I'm kind of scared a little bit. Humanizing all this stuff. I love this stuff. Like, to your point, it comes from a brain, and if that brain is immature or mature, it's up for debate. I don't really necessarily think Nas is mature at all, but like, he is one of the greats.
No, I meant more that like the perspective.
I don't even consider his perspective mature, right? Like, he was
at 16.
I mean,
or maybe he was just great with words.
He romanticized like a thing that was like easy to romanticize, I think. But Illmatic is incredible. I'm not trying to say that. Now I said 2.5 great records.
I mean, I still think, when you look at, I'm going to have an Illmatic discussion.
No, let's get away
from
it.
Lord 2023.
God, Jesus Christ, no, Damien.
I'm just saying that he probably wrote that when he was like 16, 17.
I'm saying
it's amazing for a teen.
Sure, yes, I agree. He's a prodigy, but like,
yes, that was what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, and Lauryn Hill recently like was late to a show, and people were booing her, and I think I don't know if I have this exactly right, but someone was like, "You're late," and she was like, "You should just be grateful I'm here." And I'm like, that's also a good point. Like I'm always stuck on this idea you have to be 2 of 3 things: likable, on time, and good at what you do. She's likable and good at what she does. She's always late, but we'll still wait for her because she's that beloved, right? And Andre still has that. He has all the cachet he wants. If he's like, none of the flute stuff anymore, I'm going to try rapping again, we'll be like, that's exciting. I will certainly listen to that on a late Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me bring up another guy who I haven't heard from in a while. Andre was kind of a hiatus, Lauryn Hill hiatus. Another one, Osama bin Laden. What's this guy been doing?
That he did that song "Bombs Over Baghdad," right?
Yeah, and look, I'm not talking about Shawnee bin Laden,
right,
from Queens, good rapper.
Yeah, Osama bin Laden making Gen Z happy, woke. I don't know.
I'm also not talking about Little Zay Osama or Osama's son, who are also rappers.
Well, you're talking about the OG Osama bin Laden.
The Hooper.
The Hooper, the fan of VHS pornography. How can we? I never imagined a day we could joke about him, but we can. It's okay. We've talked about this. When this shit was going down, I did not imagine this day.
No, not necessarily. As the towers descended, I was not thinking, one day we'll all look back at this and laugh.
Like, I still have trouble joking about COVID, but like that'll happen eventually. Bin Laden, so he's in the news because his one of his manifestos got recirculated via social media, and young people who were not alive during the actual event read it and found some value there, like some worldly points of view, and were like, is he making a good point about something? And you could be a despicable murderer, or like, I don't mean to use those words. You can commit one of the most impactful dark war crimes ever, acts of war ever, and still like have an interesting thing to say, right? Like both those things can exist.
Yeah, and I mean, beyond the idea that messianic leaders are going to be charismatic and have a good way with words, to get to his position, someone who came from a family with a lot of money and led like a jihadist sect, he had to be good with words, and he was. So in the letter that he wrote to America, he talked a lot about our relationship with Israel. He talked about other stuff and us as kind of a colonial force and an empire around the world, whatever. It's in the letter. Go read it. But of course, there are also his other opinions, which are, more objectionable, and his thoughts on, say, homosexuality or our, the Western culture. So it's a mixed bag. But people really targeted certain parts of this, and they're like, wait a minute, maybe this guy was right. But the irony here, though, is that it was all kind of a fraud, apparently. So this one guy who's got a lot of followers, who's been known as a scammer, is the one who really got this story out there. And prior to that, it was like a few people on TikTok had saw the letter and were chatting about it. It wasn't really trending. It wasn't really catching fire. It wasn't a big deal. But when he found it, and then his tweet went viral, and then it became a whole story. And then because you got the New York Post on it, being like, putting the kids on the cover of the newspaper. Like the New York Post loves doxing teens. They're really into that shit. Like, oh, you're a teen with an objectionable opinion? Let's put you on the cover of the Daily News so we can try to ruin your life.
Yeah, I get it though. Like, young people always try to find, like, what are they angry at? They're angry at their parents, right? Like, in the same way we're angry at our parents. The same parents that told us like video games and TV would destroy our minds, and it ended up destroying their minds. But like, it feels a bit cyclic and traditional to me. It's just a bit shocking because I'm like, oh, yo, this guy is not that casual, but I guess he is. Maybe I'm clutching my pearls a little bit here, but like, maybe we can talk about him in a freer sense than I thought. But it's like, as this Kanye stuff is coming out, with New York Times reporting and like, Reebok News, it's just like, there is a level of shock that I still have, which I'm kind of relieved that I still have. But when he says this stuff, I'm like, yo, that is interesting. Like, I'm not used to hearing those words in this context, but like, I was interested to see how it existed on my feed and debated, where some things that I think are a lot less intense are hotly debated and immediately squashed, like sort of how you order your bagel.
I had to go back to Wikipedia to remember what all the fuss was about. This Bin Laden guy, what was his story, Like,
he was the third member of the coup who wasn't on that album cover, but was the art director.
Was he an original member of Black Eyed Peas?
That was taboo, man. Oh my god. Yo, sometimes I'll be working out watching if I was streaming some basketball games and if I was working out and I couldn't really didn't have the wherewithal to change the channel because I don't know if I was streaming it if I grab onto the same quality stream. This is like Black Eyed Peas for the whole halftime with like a screensaver on repeat. I've listened to more Black Eyed Peas. If I was streaming, I might have been listening to more Black Eyed Peas this year than any other year of my life.
I believe we have broached this subject in the past about the lost Black Eyed Peas song. Have we? I think we have. I'm bringing it up again, though.
Keep talking.
Bring it up again. So, you may have heard the song "Let's Get It Started," and
Yes.
that's just
Okay. Yes.
in your mind become the song. There is no other version. In fact, there is no other version on, say, Apple Music or Spotify. But if you go on YouTube, you can find the original. And that song is insane. It is, well, pardon me, but it's Let's Get Retarded.
Oh my God!
Are song.
Are you a Catholic fascist podcaster from Murray Hill all of a sudden?
Look, I'm using the R word here. I apologize.
Yo,
That's the name of the song. You go through it. It's like punchlines about like people's necks not working. It's crazy when you read it. Like you really lit up the disabled on that one, or the differently abled. Like way to like you dropped ether for people in wheelchairs.
Imagine my shock when I found out my favorite T-Pain song, "I'm in Love with a Dancer." It's not the kind of dancer I was thinking of. It wasn't like a halftime dancer at a basketball game doing choreography to jump around. It was a different kind of dancer that James Harden maybe is more familiar with. I was shocked, man.
He also really liked the bartender, which is amazing because he's just kind of there at the club. Like, who else can make a song about here? Strippers, sure. Bartender? Yeah, what I got about the security guard? No real feelings.
Speaking of strip clubs, I hate to go off subject or off path here, but how's the new Rays in Greenpoint? Have you been hitting it every night? Because Tavo and Carlos used to throw that party at Pussycat Lounge, so it just reminded me, like, oh right, I need a little Rays check-in from Ben.
I have walked by it, and I've seen people in it, and I saw the line, like the queue outside. There was some guys, maybe some women in there, but I saw more guys. That doesn't mean that there weren't women folk inside, whatever.
Yeah.
I have not set foot in there yet, but they seem to have a good crowd. But I want to say that was on Thursday night that I walked. Maybe I walked by it on Friday as well. It looked like it's thriving. I don't know if it's 24. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's 7 days a week, but yeah, that Hell Square 5 seems to be up and running.
Your boy Nolita Dirtbag was on record calling that area the Triangle of Sadness. I'm like, yo, what the fuck, man? It's Hell Square 5. There's four other Hell Squares that didn't die for this.
I know. The triangle is good, though, because it is a triangle. It's not a square.
Is it a triangle, though? Am I Spike Lee and Phil Jackson over there? Show me the triangle.
Yeah, it is a triangle. Like that, the center of it is where it used to be called like Nights and Weekends, and now it's called Good Bar or whatever. And Bernie's is on it. That is technically a triangle.
All right.
It's the intersection of, like it's Manhattan's on one side and then Nassau forks there. So like technically it is a triangle, but it is also Hell Square 5.
Yeah, I did not expect. Who am I? I'm so naive. Of course, I should have expected this shit to creep into Greenpoint. I thought we were in like the age of Nathan Fielder. I thought it was going to be like bookstores, internet cafes, not necessarily great stuff, but like thrift shops, like Beacon's Closet. I thought it was going to be a bit more like bohemian. It is not bohemian. It is a full-on fraternity.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to the little mini mall in Bedford that hit all of those things you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It had multiple thrift stores, an internet cafe.
Spoonbill?
It had earworm? Earwax, right?
Dude,
and then it had
I used
Verb
to-
Cafe. Just real absolute like Gen X banger right there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I used to buy tickets for events at Earwax that were only available at Earwax, and we'd line up to get like Liars tickets.
I used to get copies of Vice magazine there.
Yeah, I mean, not mad, but now there's a Joe's Pizza there. That's all gone to hell.
I was at an after party the other day for the 1975.
Mm-hmm.
That was a bit of a throwback.
Wait, but he's still relevant, right?
I guess. I haven't listened to the music in a while, but
I mean, Taylor Swift wise.
Yeah, I think he had a big show. I don't know if it was the Garden. I don't know where it was, but
I think he's popular. Like, Matty Healy is still doing stuff like inexplicably. I don't get it, but I'm not like a Kings of Leon guy. Like that whole scene, you know, I have to give Andre a little bit more credit here because like he did not make like music like the 1975 or Kings of Leon. He did a Flute album. Maybe I was too harsh on him. You know, he's doing it for the culture, and maybe I was a bit emotional about it.
it's okay. I mean, you sound contrite. And I think
You bring up the 1975, and I'm like, oh, fuck that. Okay, where are the Flute albums at?
right, because I mean, they started in like 2002. We're talking about the same time frame.
Are they
Similar.
that old?
Only they started the band as teenagers, which so did Outkast.
Yeah.
That first album that came out in 1992 or something like that, 93.
Yeah,
Southern Playalistic. They were like 16, 17 years old.
I mean, yeah, man. Incredible. You know who also started off hot way before we got George Santos, man. He's been
Yeah, he did start out hot.
prodigy at this. I mean, to be honest, took it all the way up to Congress. He's a congressman. A funny one. A much reviled one among his own party. Are you with George Santos Nation? Maybe I call it Santos Party House. The people who kind of love it, who are like, this guy's my hero. It's sort of like the like Joe Biden's son. It's just like, oh, the more sleazy stuff we know about him, the more I like him. I'm like, is this true? How do you feel about this?
Well, it sounds to me like you're just not an appreciator of his cuntiness.
I mean, he serves.
Not a word that I would use lightly, but
Yeah.
that man is cunty.
Yeah. Well, maybe a better question would be, are we seeing
Yeah, are you suggesting that he wasn't serving?
are we seeing
Like,
scam-
no,
are we seeing scammer
Hold on.
fatigue?
like, are you saying that he didn't serve?
No,
'Cause I
he's
think he
literally
was- I think-
serving his term.
He's eating out there.
They call it work.
Is
With an E.
George Santos' mother?
I mean, who is him actually? No, are we? Is this scammer fatigue? Because we got some great scammer stories in the last 5 to 10 years. But you know, Carolyn Calloway's book came out. We got saturated with scammer content, and this has reached the top of our society.
Yeah,
Are we just kind of over it?
There was an oversaturation of scammer culture that peaked around when designers Panda was at the top of the charts. You had the Brooklyn scammers, like the credit card scamming guys, and then you had Joanne the scammer. It was a high point for scammer culture for sure, and I think we did get a little tired of it. Maybe we wanted, an honest cutthroat. Like, rob me, that's fine. But, put a gun to my head and rob me. No more of this going behind my back. No more scamming. But I do think that George Santos, the Hermes, the OnlyFans, the Sephora, he is a scammer worthy of the era of scammers.
I know.
He's a real one. He's mother.
Chet Holmgren. He's being outshone by other scammers, but alone by himself, he is one of the all-time great scammers.
No, he really is. Look, you want to put this in basketball context, right? You got the guys who were like great in the early 2000s. Like the pre-LeBron's ascension to greatness. You had Kobe around, you had AI. Santos, he's a McGrady type. Like just an undeniable skill set at any point. I don't care when you put George Santos. In the peak of scammers and scammer, the dead ball era for scammery, put him there. This guy will hold his own. He is a true blue con artist.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah.
Mother.
The thing I'm impressed by him is, what impresses me is, like, Donald Trump is a scammer. Well, he wants power. He wants control. He wants legacy. He wants money. George Santos just wants his dick to get rated. He's like, can I just use this money to get my dong on a scale from 1 to 10? That's what he's going for, and I have to respect it.
Yeah, this is true. Someone made the point, like, he got a job that has legalized insider trading. You can just do it. Like, okay, we're going to give this contract to this person or this company, and they're like, all right, great, I'll invest in them now. Like, you can just do it.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi, like a maestro.
Oh, yeah.
Just incredible at insider trading. Just has become fabulously wealthy doing that. I mean, her husband had money too, but all I'm saying is that we know well that is one of the huge benefits of being in the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Is that they allow you to buy and sell stocks based on shit that you're working on. It's crazy. And he's just like, just rate my dick. I don't have time to get an account and learn these stock ticker prices. Just 1 to 10. 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Just take a look, see, and give me some feedback.
Schedule the private interest groups, whether that be big business, something unethical. It doesn't matter. But hold it off till tomorrow, because right now I got to get my dick ranked. Got to find out where this falls in the ranking of dicks.
Dick Ranks was one of my least favorite reggae artists. Shaba, fantastic. Cuddy, also excellent. Dick Ranks, I don't know, he just didn't quite come through.
Yeah, online there was, I'm not even sure if this one was joking or not, but I was going with it. She was just like an adult worker, and she was just like, I had to check to see if he followed me, and he did, and I have rated his dick, and I was like, this motherfucker's amazing. Rewind. It like, respect, man. Yeah, like, even
she
Hunter
gave him high marks. Elephant Man.
Hey, yo, they were blasting Beanie Man on my block the other night. I've not heard that song since the mid-90s. That's crazy.
Hey, lads, you got that new Dick Ranks?
Got that Santos Party Jam? Oh, my God. Well, now we want to know. Nah, I don't want to know. I've asked too many questions. See, I've gone too far. But are we talking best new music? Are we talking like 4.3?
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't get any intel on the ranking system.
No. But yeah, I mean, he's not going to run for a second term. But someone asked, people keep on asking this question: are these the leaders we deserve, or are they just freaks? Like, is this what we ask for? Is this what we get.
Well, right. There's that famous quote, the people get the government they deserve or whatever it is.
Sure. I mean, do New Yorkers get the Knicks we deserve?
Probably. I mean, I think the Knicks are a unique one. That team is exactly what New Yorkers asked for, and then they get it. New Yorkers are like, give me a Josh Hart.
Give me just a Brunson. Every 10, 15 years, we need another Brun dog in the building.
Give me the son of a former Knick. Give me a guy who listens to Red Cafe. Let's do this. We want Team Uncle Murder.
Yeah, I don't know. Are we gonna be sad when Santos is gone? Will we talk wistfully of him being like, God damn, remember when politics was fire? Remember when dicks were getting raided in these hallowed halls?
Yeah, no, it's crazy to think that there's all these dicks that like no one is even like judging them or gauging them on an arbitrary scale of some sort. Like who will ever know? An unranked dick, does it even rank?
Right. Like a dick unranked is a dick unlived.
Shaba. Well, in other news,
yeah. Moving on. Speaking of dicks.
So you know more about this story than I do, and I'm moving on from the dick ranking story. I'm talking about a different one now. I'm conceding that you know more about that one as well, but I'm gonna let you take the lead for the Charissa Thompson story.
Charissa Thompson. Oh, this is interesting, man. So she.
Yeah. Just take it away. Take it away, Andrew.
She is kind of a prominent figure. Thursday Night Football, a former sideline reporter, has gone through a lot as kind of a media personality in the NFL. Used to work at ESPN. Kind of fought with them there. I believe had a show with Marcellus Wiley during the day. So she makes news this week because she was doing a podcast, and she claims that she, as a sideline reporter, if she couldn't get a quote from the coach, she would just come out and make it up. Maybe she did it once, and the exact word she said was, "No coach is going to get mad if I say, hey, we need to stop hurting ourselves. We need to be better on the third down. We need to stop turning the ball over and do a better job, etc., etc." Basically what she's saying is like, these are just words that fill time and they don't mean anything. And these words are predictable. So I'm just going to say what they would have said to me anyway. And a lot of people got really upset at her, especially like other people who do what she does, like sideline reporters for NBA games. And
I saw David Aldridge was clearly
incensed.
Clearly furious about that.
I mean, I hear that because he's a straight shooter, right? Like, I think he plays by the books and Charissa Thompson doesn't. And she is reasonably successful. I think she's having a Thursday Night Football gig is a big deal, being the host of that event every week. But I'm with her. Like, we've been through this years ago. Like, this was the inside joke with Craig Sager. Like, no coach was going to tell him anything, so he was just going to dress provocatively and, like, be friendly with these guys. So it turned into, like, a different kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought David Aldridge made, I thought, a valid point that this is a way for, like, television journalists of color to get their foot in the door because there's the entrenched media, and then you have former players are the people who are in the studios, and a lot of times the analysts and the broadcast team. So this is a way for people who are professional journalists, an avenue to get them like into the mix, into media, and because it usually isn't former athletes who are the sideline reporters. That seemed to be the point he was making, and I respect that. And also we know his history. He did that for the NBA. He was a sideline guy. Might have done it for other sports too, but You know, he has done this job. But I ultimately am kind of with you, just that, like, of course, people's jobs should be taken seriously, and these are people who have hopes and dreams, and they have backgrounds, and they're reputable, and they're trying to work their way up in this field. And for someone to say, yeah, it's all total horseshit, is something that, like, hurts their feelings and makes their job not feel valuable. I also am kind of with you. It's like, yeah, like, I've done this kind of thing at, like, party reporting. You walk up to someone and you're like, hey, you know, I've been in media scrums. Like, it's not like the most journalistic shit.
No.
Like, you are just asking like a couple questions. Like, what went right in the first half? What do you need to do? Someone's like, we know it's cliche, but it doesn't mean that those people themselves are not qualified or not good at their job. It just means that aspect, sideline reporting itself, the actual going up to a coach and saying, what went wrong there? And when you went down 10 and you missed 4 shots in a row.
Right.
Like, yeah, that stuff is not, it's not the most hard hitting.
No. And yeah, I get, I get when there is a musician who studies and plays beautiful scales on his guitar and writes amazing songs and doesn't get the attention like a 3-chord Green Day gets, and like, that's not real music. This pisses me off. It kind of hurts the integrity of what we're all trying to do. Cultural crit guy online, like, this is his whole beef, and I get it. Like, but I think what helps us brace for that, because we'll all feel that eventually in our lives with everything. Someone will come through, do what we do in a more interesting way, and be flippant about something we care about. It's just like as predictable as anything. But not to recognize what someone like Charissa Thompson does is kind of a misstep here, because she's funny. She's an entertainer. She has lines like this. Like, remember the homie Nick Sylvester back in the, he moved to LA, but he was a reporter for The Voice. And he did the coolest thing. I think I've mentioned it here before, but this back when the game was big. And he had asked the game what his game face was. And the game says, "This is my game face." And he didn't, that never happened. He never interviewed the game, and he got fired. And he was like, this ain't for me. Like, interviewing rappers, like, it ain't for me. He goes on to start a label and become a producer. And like, he's still in music, but he's like, I don't want to chase down game with these stupid questions. Like, what inspired the record? Like, what about the cameos? Like, it's not interesting to me. I got fired. I'm done. I'm never going back into this. And I'm like, oh, you would have been so good at this, because he had like a funny sense of how to tell another story that we haven't heard a million times before.
Yeah, in the case of Charissa Thompson, excuse me, is that those questions are not the sum of who she is either.
Yeah. And
that's why she blew it off. In the same way that, say, David Aldridge is taking it seriously, they're both coming at it from the same point, and then kind of taking a different approach to doing it. Like, he's like, this is real, like, because my job is real. I have a career in this. I go out there and I work hard. I cultivate my resources. I'm a writer. I do all these things. So you're damn right I'm going to be up there on the sideline taking that seriously. And I would presume that she is saying the same stuff. Well, I do other things. I do this, I do that. Like, I'm in these other meetings. The sideline shit is horseshit. So I'm just going to blow that off. And that doesn't define me either. So I think everyone kind of is in agreement to the craft of sideline reporting being kind of whatever. But it's just, how do you want to express that? You want to plump it up to make it seem more prestigious because you are a serious person? Or do you just, like, say, fuck that, and keep it moving? I don't know. I don't think either party is wrong, outside of Charissa Thompson shouldn't have told people that.
Yeah, her problem is she let people in on it. Maybe. Oh, I mean, I don't think anyone would have noticed. That's the irony, right? No one's like, that was a strange sideline report she gave like 4 years ago at that college football game. Was that You know, did Bobby Bowden really say? I don't even know if Bobby Bowden's still around. Is he alive? I don't know anything about college football, but like, did Jimmer say that? Did old can say that? I don't know. But
Well, one point I would make, I'm sorry to cut you off, is that there are a few times when you do get like iconic moments that involve the athlete, and those ones are more important than like just saying, here's what they say. They say they're going to focus on getting back in transition. That stuff I get making it up. Who gives a shit? It's not even real.
Yeah.
But the interviews are actually the skill set. It's like, can you use this 2 minutes to make a memorable encounter with an athlete who's there agitated or, ecstatic or sweaty or crestfallen, whatever it is. Here's Pop. He's angry. Can you make this memorable? That's the job. The reporting back, like, here's their strategy in the second quarter.
Right.
Yeah. I get why you'd make that up.
agreed. Like anything is possible. Bart Scott, Sal Palantonio, Can't Wait. All great stuff, classic stuff. But Charissa Thompson isn't saying she's not down for that. She's just saying, like, I couldn't get the coach and it was go time. And I just improvised.
I'm saying I'm thinking more about that. I'm like, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not totally fine. I'm saying I get her perspective on that.
Yeah.
I just think like the real skill for that job is not those little sideline reports. That they need to focus on their defense in the third quarter. Like, okay, whatever.
Right.
They need to get stops. Yeah. Right. But who's your guy? Your favorite? Who? Jim. He was a boxing.
Jim Gray.
Jim Gray, yeah, your dude. He would run out there and go up to agitated boxers, and like he was great at that.
Jim Gray is good. He had a tough time with the Pete Rose thing. I remember when Jim Leyritz hit that home run in the World Series. He got Jim Leyritz to talk a game-winning home run for the Yankees, and he was like, "Tell me about that moment." He was like, "The way you treated Pete Rose, we're not going to speak to you," and I think that was really tough for him because he was a reporter and he's really direct. He's famous for being direct and maybe insensitive. So a lot of athletes bristle when he approaches. But he mostly finds work in boxing now. And he's stuck with it. Wait a second. Was he was in the decision with LeBron James, right? That was him.
I don't remember. Maybe it was.
God, my memory. I just remember the shirt LeBron was wearing. That's a crazy looking shirt. But
I mean, Jim Gray was certainly ESPN for a while, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to have a long career here. Like, we're talking about some of the greats. Like, Charissa Thompson's been doing this for a while. Jim Gray has been doing this for a very long time. So, like, it's funny when, we talked about Adam Silver coming out with that press release being like, we need to talk about our game with like more enthusiasm, with intellect, with like smartness. He didn't say those words, but he kind of implied that like, hey, let's go away from like they wanted it more into something like the NFL does so well. And it's ironic that the heat's coming down on an NFL host, a prominent one. But I don't know. I'm just looking for guys to like, or reporters to improvise and be entertainers, like, and that entertainment is not in telling us like, they want to play better defense and they play to win the game and it's a team effort, not just one person. Like, that's not entertaining. Entertaining is just like articulating like the moment, being present like with something funny or observant. Yes.
But I think I understood why like Aldridge and people in the craft would be defensive, but like
no one's wrong here. Yeah,
I think everybody gets this, that this is not really what the job is, but it's indicative of how people will still judge you because it's what you do.
Don't you think
it's visible?
Don't you think like right now people are just like really fed up with like this kind of like, not scammer, but like, for example, Nathan Fielder, right? People are just like, God damn, this guy, you guys like this guy? Like he's like making fun of me. This is annoying. Like, how does this guy get like a show on Showtime that is getting all sorts of press? How does he get to mock other projects? And it's like, it's an interesting tension that I think is really present right now.
I haven't watched the new Nathan Fielder show. Are you implying, and I know you haven't either, so we're not talking about the show. Maybe we will in the future. Are you implying that like Nathan Fielder has gone from being a cult figure to now a mainstream figure that is now imperiled as a sort of avant-garde star?
I mean, the context changes everything, right? Like if he can operate on a Comedy Central level and do his incredible show for a few years, and then he jumps to HBO, does an even better show that people kind of freak out about, and takes that leap. Like I think of Tom Green. I kind of like the Tom Green show on MTV. And then he kind of becomes a different kind of star when he starts dating Drew Barrymore. And I believe he does like some prominent hosting on late night. And like there comes a point, I think, where the inevitable kind of eyes on an artist like Nathan Fielder is going to do a disservice to his art, because there will be enough people who have seen it who will discuss this thing and turn it against him, kind of. And an artist's life is not long. I mean, we talked about Andre, like his career was long and it's an amazing career. And Nathan Fielder's career is also long, but like it's hard. Like Chris Elliott, one of my favorites, like after Cabin Boy, it was like, cool, fuck, you know, like then where does he go?
I mean, you were Herman's Head day one, wasn't he on that?
Was he one of the?
Oh no, he was on Get a Life.
Get a Life was one of the best shows ever, I thought. But it's hard to get attention, and I mean, Louis C.K. for many reasons, but I think people were kind of getting annoyed at him anyway. Dave Chappelle for many reasons, but people were kind of getting annoyed of him in the same way. I mean, he burned out in a spectacular way. But if you were Nathan, let me turn this into a question. If you were Nathan Fielder, would you rather continue on a straight line or take a big swing and kind of like have the ceiling for the jokes land in a heavier, louder way, but risk the kind of attention that you don't really want?
Well, I mean, I'm not to evade the question. I just think with Nathan Fielder is interesting because he is clearly wants to be on camera.
Oh,
and
for
he
sure.
Makes him, you know, like the projects he does have always involved him being on camera and him doing a lot of acting. Like he does comedy and he does some parts that are like, you know, supposed to be kind of genuine, but really it's acting, and he's doing tons of scripted things. And I'm not saying that every interaction is you know, manufactured, but a lot of them are, you know. And I'm saying that applies to Nathan for you. It applies to his other HBO show, and then now The Curse is a, from my understanding, it's a totally scripted show.
Yeah, he acts in it.
That he acts in, exactly.
Yeah.
So I wonder, does he just go towards being like a fairly big name regular actor, which is strange because even though that may be one of his goals, that's not really what his skill set is. Like his skill set is playing with reality and pranks and surrealism. Him just being a regular actor, like he might be kind of funny, but like what's the ceiling on that?
I mean, I think of like the career trajectories of Michael Cera versus Jack Black. Clearly, Jack Black he has that dog to be like a
Yes.
top billing School of Rock kind of blockbuster dude. Michael Cera's kind of like a deep cut who, Year One was one of the funniest fucking movies, just visually hilarious. And I quite love these artists, but I don't wish for them to become like the biggest they can possibly be. And it sounds selfish for me. I'm not trying to gatekeep like Nathan Fielder, but he's doing a different kind of comedy. Yeah.
Andrew's gatekeeping Nathan Fielder again.
But it's annoying. It's like, where'd you get that sandwich? Like, wouldn't you like to know? Like, I'm not trying to do that. It's just like he changes as an artist, and this is what Andre kind of talks about in all of his interviews. He's like, yo, I became an international mega star, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I never really came true. I never fulfilled that promise.
Well, with Nathan Fielder, one of the ironic parts is that as he gets more notoriety as a real actor and, say, gets roles in bigger and larger movies, if that's what he intends on doing, then he can't really use his magic, which is that he's generally anonymous to the average person.
Right.
Like, hey, it's me, like Nathan Fielder. You're like, oh yeah, you're that guy from that movie. Oh, you're doing something funny. What's up? Let's see this.
Yeah.
You want me to make a ice cream that tastes like poo? That's funny. An actor's here. He's a comedian. Right. He wants to make poo ice cream. Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, this has direct basketball analogies, right? Because people are reticent towards superstars joining up and just like getting that bigger thing. It's like, no, Dame Lillard should stay in relative obscurity in Portland. Not obscurity, but not a big market, no chance for a championship. People want that for him. And as soon as he moves, he upsets everybody. When he's like, hey, I kind of want to be in the biggest spotlight in Miami and like go with the team that made the finals. I think I can win a championship. Everyone's like, huh. That's not quite, we don't blame you. We understand it, but that's not quite what we love you for. Oh, okay, good luck, And then other times, LeBron James or KD, it's pure fury, right? Like, it is unethical to do it.
Well, I think something you're kind of talking about is this idea of being like trapped by people's perception of you on what you were at one point and maybe not forever. Mm-hmm. And like this always happens, right? And even in basketball, it's like, I think the Dame Lillard example is a good one, but we've seen that with like James Harden. We've seen it with Carmelo Anthony. Mm-hmm. These guys have been phenomenal players, but because they didn't win, it doesn't matter what they do. And like the perception of them is now just negative. Mm-hmm. Because even though we liked them, we respected them, their whole career, these guys are great players. At the end of the day, you don't win. So you were just like, you're a loser. That's what we've decided. James Harden's a loser. Carmelo Anthony's a loser. I don't know. I think like
Allen Iverson got some of that.
Yeah,
practice.
I mean, I guess in some ways it's not the same as being criticized for changing who you are and the expectations. But I think there is that idea of like, if you don't win a chip, there's nothing you can do. Every decision you made was wrong. Your attempts to win a title were desperate and losery, even if you like really tried to go. If you stayed home out of loyalty to your franchise, then you didn't win. You didn't want to win enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw there was that article that Howard Beck wrote about Harden, where he really lit into him. I'm like, you also wrote an article about Melo, and you lit into Melo for staying in New York and not going to Chicago. Like, what are we doing?
And Howard Beck also works for Bill Simmons now, and Bill Simmons is the kind of the conductor, the orchestrator of this Harden, of these Harden words that are happening, which seem like kind of a hit job a little bit, like Harden is a new kind of player, but he doesn't deserve a lot of this. And you had that guy, I forgot what broadcast team he was a part of that went viral.
Dallas Mavericks, who
was just like, let me tell you. And just like, I always think of those videos that go viral of the guy from waking up, taking videos of him throughout his day. It's like sad Sarah McLachlan music. It's feeding his dog, opening a can of soup, eating it, watching Netflix. I'm like, just put a ska soundtrack on it. That's an amazing day, man. You have a killer dog. You're eating delicious chunky soup. Netflix, man, that sounds like a good night.
I mean, yeah, there's a few guys like that. There's the other dude, forget it, his exact name, but he's like a 25-year-old, like, fledgling consultant in DC, and he's gotten a little bit of a following for just doing like, very wholesome, just inane things, but he also like poses with his, corporate tie. He's kind of charming in a super dorky way. I saw that someone got a birthday message on Cameo from him the other day.
Shout out.
But anyway. But yeah, the Harden stuff. I saw stuff today from Philly writers dogging him. The Howard Beck story trashed him, and then that the Dallas announcer had a rehearsed spiel where he just the people were like putting the ether music behind it. I'm like, this is corny. Well, you're going after a guy who everyone has said negative stuff about.
I know.
Like safe. there's no interesting idea here. You're just dogpiling.
Yeah.
Like, and you, it's not even a guy who's on your team. It's not even a guy who's your opposition in any real sense. He's not even a rival. He's just another guy. And I don't know. I found the James Harden hate really, really lame. But whatever. He looked good last game. He hit a game winner. Haters get lost.
I mean, to my ska point, which seemed like a weird aside, but I meant like when that Mavs announcer was talking, analyst was talking, he was like, and then you were dissatisfied, and then you wanted to go to a better team, and then you weren't satisfied there, and you wanted to go to a better team. He could have ended it with like, and that's what wanting it more is. You're never satisfied because there's greatness around the corner.
At every turn,
I demand more
to get the W.
Don't ever be satisfied.
You never settle.
Complacency is loser shit.
Yeah, and this kind of idea about who our bad guys are has been on my mind for a while. And we saw Ben Simmons vilified. We seen Russell Westbrook vilified. James Harden vilified. I'm like, these guys aren't real villains.
No.
They're guys who didn't feel like playing or asked for trades. Like, whose side are we on here?
Yeah.
I get that if you're a fan of a team and someone says, I don't want to play here, you're supposed to be indignant. Like, how dare you? You don't play for this team? That's an insult to me. I just don't feel that way. Like that, like, you can't make me care. I'm sorry. If you're my favorite player and you say, I want to be traded, I'm like, hey, good luck with that, man. I hope you get traded.
And like we've kind of are creeping up on a little bit of like the dog days of the NBA season, where it's just like, I always think like when you meet someone new, or
we're not even at the mid-season tournament.
I know, but like that's why they created the tournament, to keep our interest, because like this is like 10, 15 games in. This is like when a lot of casual fans like check out, or or whatnot. They don't have the dog like us, just watching the Kings every night, just like clocking Kevin Huerter and his efficiency. But it would be a mistake to not at a little bit know that what James Harden does is what pumps this league up. If Joel Embiid tomorrow said, hey, trade me, this whole world would go on fire, this NBA world, right? And like players like Kyrie, Harden, Westbrook, they want to do this for real reasons. Simmons. But they also, I think, and because they're smart dudes on the court, I have to believe that they're like, isn't this what you guys want? Like, now I have like 5 reporters asking me questions. It's like, here you go. Here's your gruel. It's like you get less of it because you've done such a good job. But like, I just think
always less.
Yeah, I think Harden is so good for the NBA, and it's sad that he's getting older and he won't be this nuclear for this much longer. But the hate for him, however misplaced it is the thing, and it's. I'm grateful for it because it separates the suckers from the people who can laugh at it.
I mean, for me, I just wish we had villains that were stars, and it was their attitude or their accomplishments that made them villainous. And I miss Mamba mentality for that reason.
Yeah, man, for sure.
And looking at it, I mean, being a villain is a good villain. It's rare. Most people don't have the heart for that. LeBron became a villain for a couple of years and like acknowledged that he didn't have that villain dog.
Yeah. Shaq had it.
Shaq had it, but yeah, when LeBron went to Miami, they tried to embrace being the villain. He didn't like it.
Yep. Yeah, it's
hard.
Yeah.
He's not a villain. He's not, and I don't mean that like you got to be a real villain. I mean you got to enjoy it. If you don't want to get booed every time you go out there, like fuck that, dude. I don't want to be a villain. I'm a nice guy. I want to get. Maybe do it for a year, but for my whole career, I'm gonna get freaking booed every time I show up anywhere.
It's so ironic, like we call Wemby the unicorn, another unicorn, but like, I wish he had a little bit of a dickish streak in him, a little bit.
Would you like to rank that streak?
I want him to be more of a scammer. I want him to use his talents for a certain kind of ranks.
I went to the dick ranker and nobody ranked you.
He's like, hey man, we rank we rank to have the best rank. It's a team effort, this rank. You don't walk into the arena and not want to rank this dick.
But yes, anyway,
we're talking about Grady Dick. We're talking about Grady Dick's scouting report.
Back on track.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got Draymond Green and we've got Brooks. Let's talk a little bit about Draymond. So this happened a few days back after we recorded on Monday. I want to say it was maybe it was a Wednesday game, maybe it was a Tuesday, whatever. Early in the week, Draymond is 1 minute into the game with the Timberwolves. The Warriors had just dropped the prior game, and Draymond had kind of gone viral for his verbal sparring with Anthony Edwards, and Dre came out the loser in that. Ant kind of laughed him off as during his little tough guy moment, and I'm talking about Draymond, and Ant laughed him off like no one's worried about you, and then walked him down, hit some game-winning jumpers, including one on Draymond to win the game.
Yeah,
they come out the next one. Like 1 or 2 days later, I think. Yeah. So virtually a back-to-back. Curry's not playing. Minute in, there's a little skirmish there. Maybe it was Jaden McDaniels and Clay or whoever.
Thompson, yeah.
And Gobert's just kind of waiting around as like a large Frenchman does. Like he's not really involved. He just kind of waist deep in the muck.
Yeah.
And Draymond comes over and throws him in a naked rear chokehold and does it for like 10 seconds. Just won't let him go. Crazy scene.
Immediately went after him. Headhunted him, for sure. Because Gobert wasn't even kind of in the scrum.
He was just standing there, being an annoying tall Frenchman.
And I know people kind of freaked out about it, but I thought it was like, it was a bad chokehold. Even Gobert was like, yeah, if it was good, I would have been in trouble, but like, fuck this guy. And I'm like, yeah, I hate to be that boomer, but I'm just like, just kick them out of the game and like fine them, suspend them 2 games. It's just like, it's not really anything to get worked up over. But Draymond Green, his career has been hilarious, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is that move. I'm not suggesting that he was really trying to choke him to death, but we have seen Draymond try to break Jordan Poole's face. That was not a jab. We talked about this at the time. That was not I'm mad at my young teammate, I'm going to jab him. He tried to like really clean his clock. He went for it. And then, as we know, Draymond getting into it with like his dick ranking, ball kicking spate back in the early 2011s or whatever it was. 2007, whatever that playoff series was, when he just kept kicking people in the balls over and over and over.
Can you imagine when George Santos checks into a game and Draymond Green is already on the floor? Protect your balls, George. Keep that dick in your pants, George, for once.
But yeah, like Dre has at least 5 episodes of kind of just doing dumb, violent shit.
Yeah, he's a hothead who has no filter, right? Like, he cannot see himself. He never has a moment where he's like, well, like Gobert was like, I don't want to get fined. I don't want to miss games, and I'm gonna come across great if I don't do anything, because this guy's a maniac. Draymond doesn't have that.
Yeah, no, of course. Part of this is what makes Draymond great, is this
I'm a fan. Whatever.
bonkers competitive streak and his physicality. These things are certainly present in the way he plays basketball too.
And he's like a basketball genius, as we all know.
Yeah.
But like his emotions are what makes him great. And yeah, he's not making no flute albums. He's trying to rap every game. And he's getting older, and it's not the same, but like I appreciate that he's not flipping on us. Like, this is the Draymond we know. I mean, the Jordan Poole thing is a bit horrifying. That was never supposed to get out, but like that punch was terrifying.
Yeah, my issue was that it just had way too much malice for throwing at your teammate. I was like that could have killed him.
Or broken his face. Like, too much, man. It's like, he's a bad trash talker, but he's a menacing dude. I appreciate his menace.
Yeah, so after that game, I saw Patrick Beverley, a clip from his podcast. The name eludes me at this moment. But he was like, that sends a message with the Timberwolves that, like, Cat can't be counted on. That he just stood there as Gobert got choked out.
Oh, but
didn't really
Beverly has a bone to pick.
Yeah, no, and Beverly's like, I taught him better than that, like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, that said, Timberwolves up 2-0 against Golden State thus far. They look really good. Whether Cat's toughness is going to be a liability down the stretch, who knows? I don't think anyone thought Cat was ever tough, so I don't think this changes anything.
Yeah, I mean, Cat's been a part of a lot of conversations. I don't know what these situations do, or if this kind of like toughness carries through, like culture, right? Like, that's the whole joke with the Heat. But it does help to, I don't know. It sounds like ridiculous to say, but that incident surely does not hurt the Timberwolves, especially after they beat them. But like, I'm more worried at what it does. Not worried, but I'm more interested in what it does to the Golden State Warriors, who look lousy compared to the expectations we had of them. And like, their age and frustration is showing. And the stats that came out about how Curry, when he's out, Draymond doesn't want that smoke, is hilarious. Like, there's some truth there. Gobert was calling it out, and I'm sure in many circles in the NBA that is not a surprise.
Yeah, I felt like some of the numbers backed it up too. But yeah, it seemed to be a well-known sort of like inside the NBA chatter and discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really appreciate the villainy. I think we've gone, like, if we're in the era of Wemby and Chet, who seem like pretty straightforward competitors, honorable dudes who aren't punching danglers, like, cool, let's have that. But I am grateful for players like Dylan Brooks, for example, who, like, aside from being like a strange, dedicated trash talker, so Slipknot, like tapestries everywhere, he kind of like, I know his numbers aren't like eye popping, but is he one of those players that are good for their teams? Like the Grizzlies, who just lost by 2 points against the Celtics, like, the Grizzlies are probably better. We almost had a live fraud watch, but they didn't pull it off. Yeah, I mean, 2 points. I'd like to see what happened at the end of that game. But the Rockets are good, and like Dylan Brooks, people were laughing and saying he should be playing in China, but like, he's a good basketball player who probably has justified that contract so far. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who is obviously a villain. He gave himself the nickname of villain. He's trying to lean into it. I like that clip of him staring down the Lakers before their game. Ridiculous. Some Lance Stevenson energy. Yeah, and he just isn't quite good enough as a star to be more than a role-playing villain, like a heavy, except that, to your point,
he is clearly a valuable guy. And we talked about this over the summer. That like I'm not a believer that he's going to be an efficient scorer, even though he has been in this year. That's never what he's done in the past.
No.
But there are just not that many guys who are legit perimeter stoppers, and he's one of them.
Right.
Like,
For sure.
The guys who, whatever we want to talk about, toughness or attitude, whatever, getting under people's skin, whatever that calibration is.
Right.
He is one of those guys who plays people close. He's annoying. He's physical. He's hard to score on. He creates turnovers. He is a legitimate perimeter stopper in a league where there just are very, very few at this point. It's a very difficult job.
Yeah, and that build is interesting, right? Because there's an adult in the room there now, Fred VanVleet, and he's not a bad defender, but he's getting older, and he's a short king in NBA standards. So, like, I think it was essential for them to get someone like Dylan Brooks, and they paid for him. But I kind of am seeing the vision a little bit, right? Because Fred VanVleet is the ball handler that young team can use, but you have to pair him with someone like Dylan Brooks.
I mean, Brooks right now has a true shooting percentage of 66%, which is like...
That's not going to hold up.
No, I mean, because for his career, he's like 51. It's just too dramatic of a leap. But if he can even be about league average with his defensive chops, that's a really valuable player. As long as he's not chucking up shots at a high rate and bricking them continuously, which is often what he did in Memphis, he's not exactly the same player. You follow?
Right. Yeah.
Like, the defense is there, and the playmaking is there, and defensive playmaking, I mean.
Yeah.
But him being a league average scorer who puts up 12 a game, well, shooting pretty well, is a different beast than one who is like way below average and chucking up shots and bricking next to a guy in John Morant who also isn't, a hyper efficient player. Yeah. So like this version of him looks better because he's been better. So I guess what I'm saying.
What are you seeing with this Udoka team that is surprising? Like, their record is nice. They look good. Sengun looks like a facsimile of like Jokic, and I hate to do like the European white guy comparison, but like they got similar games. Like, are you seeing anything that isn't obvious?
I mean, to your point about Sengun, like he is a legitimately extremely good player already.
Yo, they benched him last season. It was crazy. They started. It was.
He's very good. I mean, and when you're making that comparison, it's like not only the passing, he does that little back foot flip shot as well. And it was funny when he was doing it while being guarded by Jokic. Yeah, cool. He doesn't have the same, if we're talking Dick ranks, he doesn't have the same girth of a Jokic.
That's a bit too much. I gotta say, like, we can drop the D bomb all pod, but you can't say the G bomb, dude. Relax.
I apologize for using the G word.
Okay, forgive it.
Thank you.
Okay, just say G bomb.
but to your point, he is like Jokic 2, slightly smaller. If we're ranking.
Or that kind of player, which is unique, but like when you got him, that's great, and it can kind of dictate a point of view for a coach that is. Udoka's got something to work with there, and I'm not a Green fan, but like it's helped Green as well.
Well, what's kind of cool about Sengun is that he had a very similar Jokic trajectory. Also, first year. He played a little bit. He wasn't a focal point. He was just this guy who you saw these glimpses of having, real talent. His, per 36 minutes looked good. Surprisingly so for being a 19-year-old, but he just didn't get on the court that much. They weren't interested in focusing on him.
Silas was sitting him. It was inexplicable. People were like, he is your best player. Why is he not finishing games? And I like Silas quite a bit, but as a personality, but that was wild.
I mean, I'm not a gambler, and please don't hold this against me if it doesn't happen, but Sengun seems like a very good bet for most improved. I mean, Like the team's going to get a lot of attention for being improved, but
Yeah.
you know, he's putting up really nice numbers. I mean, he was good last year too, and he did put up solid, 15 and 9, like, but he did it kind of in obscurity.
Right.
So if he's putting up 20 and 8 with 6 assists on a winning team,
Yeah.
I think he'll get a lot of attention, even though he was still good last year.
I had my eyes on Franz Wagner, another pasty white guy, a big man, but yeah, Şengün is in there for sure.
Well, I mean, we're not talking Orlando right now. They've also been good, but both these teams, when you're just saying about like what's the noticeable thing, is their defense. Orlando's got the number 1 defense. I believe Houston's around 4th, 3rd or 4th. Knicks are top 5, I think, around there as well.
Always Bing Bong.
Bing Bong, Red Cafe, Uncle Murder collab.
Yeah.
Where's Saigon? But yeah, you're looking at this team. I think what's kind of cool about them is that they aren't really that young of a team. They're really doing that hybrid thing that sometimes I don't like when young teams do. Sometimes I like the OKC approach where it's like, hey, just use our guys and we'll get good when we get good. And we're not going to go out there and go get a Van Vliet and a Jeff Green, or I think Jeff Green. Do they have Jeff Green? Maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, I think they do too. But like veterans, Brooks, these guys, we're not going to do that. We're just going to win on our own terms with our own guys, like OKC. But Houston didn't see a path to doing that, with the players and the coaching staff they had. So, I always think there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like you can do the OKC method if you have all that talent in house, but Houston clearly looked at the layout and said, we can't do it with Jalen Green and Jabari Smith and Jashawn Tate and Tari. Like it's not going to work. We need a point guard. We need, a defensive wing. We need a new coach. And thus far, them being successful in that way, being like a top 10 team, I think that's fun. I'm glad they're good, and they've got some villains in Emi and Brooks that make them a little nastier and more compelling than the average team.
Yeah, I think the Knicks did that a little bit by adding like Randall and Brunson, but
yeah, I don't think it's really unique. I'm just saying it's a different approach. Both those teams, OKC, Orlando, and Houston, all had like a whole lot of like high end lottery picks because those 3 teams sucked for the last 5 years.
And I think you look at your personnel and you make that move because I think they have a lot invested in Jalen Green. You got to find out what he is, I think. And the best way to unlock him is to take the ball out of his hands and get a point guard in there. And Jalen Green looks kind of good. He had a really disappointing season last year after a promising end of the year before. So, like, yeah, I think it was a smart strategy on their end. But, like, watching OKC this year, and we always we're talking about them as like the league pass team, or if we were streaming from like a Russian site, if Russian sites were playing games, we'd be watching these OKC halftime Black Eyed Peas performances. But like we were kind of debating via text with our buddy last night, and I was a little grouchy maybe, because people are taking shots at my boy Chet. He's goofy as hell. But you were like, what's your agenda with this team? And you asked that because I was just like, listen, man, it's a MVP caliber player. And then, to be honest, a bunch of question marks that are awesome question marks. Like Chet and Jalen Williams are like close to, I think, just like we can solidify them as main characters on that team, obviously. But like they were talked about so often in preseason discussions as like the sleeper team, the secret team, the ready before their time kind of thing.
Yeah, when I see people saying, I told you about OKC, it's like,
yeah,
what? They were almost a playoff team last year, and they're young. Everyone knew they were good.
Yeah, and I was like, but can we see them with clearer eyes? Because I think Chet is already an all-star. I know that's debatable, but I think he's there. But this team isn't like an excellent top-tier team yet. Like, we still have to wait for these guys to like gel.
Yeah, I mean, I think SGA is probably a top 5 player.
He's fucking sick. He's sick.
He's extremely, extremely good, and we've already made amends on this program on past episodes where I was like, I did not see that coming. I thought he was just another good young guard, and I did not foresee the jump he made in so many aspects of his game.
Yeah,
as a playmaker, in terms of efficiency, and shifting his entire, his shot profile into basically rarely shooting threes and just becoming like a mid-range god who gets to the line a lot.
Yeah, he's good.
Anyway, he's absolutely fantastic player, super fun to watch, just so deep bag, as they say. But anyway, I'm speaking about Chet is interesting because you got a little salty on the group chat when I called him a role player, and you may actually agree with me, but I took away that you're like role player. I'm like I think he's really good. I just think at this stage of his career, him being a really good role player is like impressive.
I mean, he has a player who could be a god tier guy, not quite yet. So like he's not going to be the alpha on this team in the way Wemby is already the alpha on this.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I meant. I was like, to be a good role player, and I know role player gets thrown around as a negative thing, but if you listen to Cookies, we would say that Jaylen Brown is a role player and always have. So
sure.
It literally is not necessarily about how good you are at something. It's like, what's Chet's role? Like, gets out in the break and runs. He spreads the floor.
Spots up. Weak side defender.
He blocks shots at the rim. Like he does really valuable roles at a high level 10 games into his NBA career. That's extremely good. I just mean as a role player, like he's got a specific role versus SGA, whose role is like lead us to the promised land. SGA.
Yeah, I mean this conversation of Wemby and Chet was. I go back and forth because last night both of them had monster games. It was awesome, and I'm excited, and I think they should be paired together infinitely. I think we should take that opportunity to create this kind of story with both of them. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, we know that these guys, I mean, I may be reaching here, but like they're on a Hall of Fame track. Like, as long as they don't get hurt, which I don't even want to talk about, if they play enough games, like they will get into the Hall of Fame, even if they don't win championships. They are that good. But like now it's like, is Chet better than Wemby on our chat? I was like, maybe that's why I was salty, because our guy, who is the best, was like, I told you Wemby was going to be good. Did you see his game tonight? And I was like, ooh, we can't enjoy Chet without bringing up Wemby, who's also amazing. Like,
it's funny that kind of rivalry with them, they aren't even the same draft. It's just that.
I know.
But the last time they tried to do this was the Luka Trey one, which had like the makings of a rivalry in that. Well, no, I mean in that they were traded for each other.
For sure.
That was an easy one. It was like, they're both guards. They're both sort of, James Harden babies, LeBron offspring in that way.
Yeah.
They're scorer facilitators and all that, whatever.
They're maestros.
But the real thing was that they were just traded for each other in the same draft. So it's like, we got this. Someone made the right call and someone didn't. And yes, we know who made the right call. But they would try to schedule them like first game of the year, Trey Young takes on Luka.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cute for a while. And then everyone's like, well, no, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know how I felt about that. And I was wrong. At the time, I was like, this is maybe the worst trade in draft history, knowing that Luka has the potential to be an MVP over and over. And he has not been. But Trey has been better than I thought. Much, much better. But a few tiers below Luka. And for the rivalry's sake, they really like each other. Like, they don't nip at each other. It's not like Draymond and Edwards. There's like, when they see each other, it's general. There's two adults kind of competing against each other, which is cool, but kind of disappointing, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, I think I respect Trey. He's a good player. And now we know how that rest of that trade worked out. It was him and Cam Reddish for Luka. Not a great deal.
Nope.
As it turned out. But,
yeah.
you know, that's the risk you take. You know, it could have gone a different way. But it was Cam Reddish. That's who they got.
Right. Yeah, what other rivalries have we seen, like the post, like Bird Magic, Jordan Bird?
Well, the
Bird,
one we never
everybody.
got. We never got Kobe LeBron.
We never got
That's
that. No.
I can't believe they didn't rig it in some way to get us a Kobe LeBron finals. Somehow we just never got that. That was what we needed. Unless withholding that finals from us and keeping it as a carrot and for our fandom, maybe that worked out more effectively. But still kind of crazy that we never got Kobe against LeBron in any meaningful game ever.
It's really hard to manufacture these things because, like, I almost think that the two players have to be in the same conference. It can't just be 2 games a year because I was so hyped for Embiid, Jokic, and Embiid was hurt, and like, there's not enough opportunities for stuff to happen. So like Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan, like, yeah, that was awesome, right? Because they saw each other a bit more and there was a lot of weird tension there. I mean, Jordan had rivalries with almost everyone because he was a delightful asshole. But, like, I don't know. Is this system built for a rivalry between two guys anymore?
I mean, from what I can tell, LeBron just got a tech for pushing Dylan Brooks. So,
what?
That's a weird rivalry, but that one's kind of fun. I guess we have Gobert Dre. Like, what else we got here?
I mean, that's sick. The Wolves and Warriors. That's good.
That's cool. I think, Embiid can't be a rival with Horford because Horford just owns him. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You run into Big Al and you're up shit creek.
The
Nothing you can
return
do
of
about that.
Orfoot. Shout out to Hal.
Dude, he's been able to defend Joe without fouling for a decade. That's what he does.
Yeah. Respect.
Sixers fans like, how is he still doing this? I'm like, he's always done this. He can defend Joe without fouling.
Yeah.
And there's only a handful of guys in the league who can, and he's one of them.
Yeah. I mean, Wemby and Chet has the potential to be an all-timer because they are going to play each other a ton. But like,
yeah, I'm kind of with you on the conference thing, but I only just meant that, like, we didn't get the two most sort of, the pillars of that era in a meaningful game. Mm-hmm. And if they were in the same conference, we could have gotten that. Like, we got plenty of, like, Chris Paul versus, like, Kobe, or Chris Paul versus the Warriors. We got that kind of stuff.
I think of, like, Weber versus
we
Shaq.
didn't really get,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. We didn't really get Kobe versus Golden State either, though.
No. I mean, when I think of Kobe, I'm not even trying to do a thing here, but, like, I think of those battles between the Lakers and Trailblazers and Rasheed Wallace. But that was about Shaq. I mean, obviously it was about Kobe. But it was like Shaq versus Rasheed. That was the story to me. And then after that, like the Pau Gasol era, Kobe didn't really have a rival there. I mean, it should have been LeBron, right?
It should have been LeBron. I mean, I guess you could say out of the West, you still had those Spurs teams. Yeah.
I mean, the Kings versus the Lakers, that was a big deal. The Adelman
that was
Kings.
A real rivalry. That was great.
Yeah, that was awesome because Weber was chippy, right? And then the whole Divac Kobe connection. Talk about a draft day trade. That was kind of awesome. People want to say that.
Shaq went out there and gendered him, called them the Sacramento Queens.
Oh wow. There were a bunch of weirdos in that series because Divac did his boy Petro dirty too, as we found out in that 30 for 30. Oof, brutal. But like, yeah, I miss jerks. I like not Miles Bridges type jerks, but I miss like Dylan Brooks jerks. Like each team should have one. That should be a requirement.
Yeah, I've seen some former players talking in there. They make the point that the lack of goons has enabled like people who talk shit to get away with it. And like you need a shit talker / goon dynamic that keeps one in check. Like the goons can't goon out all the time or they get booted and ejected. Right. But they're around to make sure the shit talkers can't just talk shit constantly either without being able to back it up. There's someone who described their dynamic of this. I was like, all right, sure, whatever.
I mean, it makes me think of Jordan Poole when he was in that huddle and he was like, F you, this is my team, and he misses the play and he's like, ooh, what play are we running actually? Jordan
like, where's the goon to settle this?
I mean, there should be like a Charles Oakley, or I'm trying to think like Udonis Haslem to kind of check him a little bit. But how much do you love the Wizards this year? They are America's team.
Yeah, I don't know why everyone's mad at the Wizards.
It's fun as hell, man.
I was like, every game they do something funny. I was watching them on like an alt screen the other day when they were playing the Bulls.
What's an alt screen?
Like another screen, like it was
on your phone or
auxiliaries.
something.
Yeah,
right.
like I was watching the Knicks game, and I was at a bar. They just also happened to have the Wizards game on for some reason.
Never heard that term before.
I think I just coined it.
Oh, right. Because I think of like
another screen, you could call it, for example.
Were the Goo Goo Dolls playing on it? Belly, 120 minutes on repeat.
Yeah, who's the host? Kennedy.
Your girl Kennedy now. No, it's Matt Pinfield, right? Well, it was many, but it was a few. But Pinfield is the one I remember the most.
Yeah, he was there. But it was the game they blew like a 27-point lead.
Right.
In humiliating fashion. I'm like, dude, something funny with the Wizards happens every game. Every game. They're just like tune in for their nonsense. They're kind of great.
Yeah, they're funny from top to bottom a little bit. There's no adult in that room.
And the point of that team is not to be good. So like, they shouldn't be vilified.
Right.
Like they aren't bad guys. They're funny.
No, I love it. But like, I mean, Nick Young, it's a Critterton, it's like a rich tapestry. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, let's say we accept the idea that heat culture exists. There has to be an equal and opposite thing, and that's the Wizards and Hornets. And I'm like, fucking the toxicity of Michael Jordan still, like the smell of his culture resonates in that hallway. And I'm like, they gotta tear those things down and rebrand them. So I was thinking like the Charlotte Smoke, the Charlotte Beef, famous for their barbecue down there. And then the Wizards, you got to do the law, but no one's gonna sign with a team called the Feds, right?
Yeah, like I feel like these like quasi-militarized terms that teams keep jumping on lately have been really underwhelming.
Commanders, like the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, the Commanders stinks. The Guardians, I get that they're actual like real stone like sculptures, but it's still boring. The Guardians, and then like what? I mean, even the Nationals.
Yeah, but when you
really
go from
like the National League.
But when you go from something as spicy as the I bomb or the R bomb for the
Sorry, I was thinking of the other R bomb. It's like, what were the?
Yo, pick your bomb, man. They're all bad. You cannot say any of them, man.
No, I know. Yes, of course, I would never. But I was thinking of the other R bomb. I was like the Washington.
Don't say it, dude. Don't.
I'm not.
I know you want to say it. Don't say it.
The Lutherans will come for us.
We're not in Turtle Bay right now.
The Lutherans will force us at Trident Point and out of East Broadway.
I mean, I was thinking like my jokey kind of suggestions for these team names. I'm just saying like they're never gonna be good. Like the Washington basketball team are never gonna be good. So just call them the Feds. Like the Feds are never gonna hoist the trophy. The dude's got Kwame
No,
Brown.
never. It's not happening.
Never. It's never gonna happen ever. The Charlotte team is never gonna win a championship, and it's because of Michael Jordan, man. You can't have him around.
He's gone, right? Now it's on them.
Yo, but the specter, culture is not about a person. It's about a belief.
But the Wizards, yeah. If you're like, all right, I know time is long, infinite time is long, and it, and what do they say? The arc bends towards justice. In this case, justice being the Wizards title.
You mean the Washington Feds?
But I just don't see it.
No.
The Washington R-bombs are not going to win this.
Easy. You're walking them. You're going too close to that flame, man. They were called the Bullets at one point. Come on.
Should have kept that name. I know why they changed it. Obviously, I get it. But it's a very cool name. Had great uniforms.
Those were great. But to be fair to the Wizards, that is an awesome idea that they just did not come through with. And I've talked about this ad nauseum. So just quickly, think of the motifs, the smoke, the spells, the orbs. None of this. If you incorporate this, we got something going.
I also do believe it had a historical context from the region, too. So it wasn't plucked out of thin air.
Wait, there were wizards in D.C.? Like Gandalf type things?
Yeah, there were necromancers, there were sorcerers.
Wait.
All kinds of spells.
Are they still there?
No, I think it was another team called the Wizards.
Dude, my buddy...
Prior League.
My buddy, not to go off topic, but it's amazing. My buddy was in the room, I think it was called the Dragon's Lair, I forget, where Dungeons and Dragons was kind of formed. He used to go to this guy's house who invented Dungeons and Dragons, and there was a basement, this legendary basement where the game was created over weeks and months and years. Are you just dropping money, betting on games? Are you?
No, I was so shocked that someone was in the Dragon's Lair that I dropped the.
It's just incredible. That's like being in the locker room when Critterdin and Arenas almost shot each other. I don't know. Pick your sick room, and it's that impressive.
This is very off topic for our basketball show, but it's on topic to that last point you brought up. You could Google it. There was a good article about Dungeons and Dragons in jails, and that it's really popular.
Yeah,
and that there are some guys who are renowned for being awesome at it. And they talked about this guy who was on death row, and everyone was just like, "Fuck, man, he is the best dungeon master we've got." It's we want to play with him one more time. But yeah, I mean, it's a very it's ultimately a pretty heartbreaking story about condemned men playing Dungeons and Dragons as they waste their lives in cells waiting to die.
Living in a fantasy world, right?
Exactly. But I'm sure you can Google that and find it. I thought it was an extremely moving article and tied into Dungeons and Dragons.
I have questions, because the cliche is when you go into jail, be ugly, Edward Norton, make me ugly, and then beat up the smallest person you can find. I don't know, the movie cliche. So in this case, if you're going jail, what if you just dominate at this fantasy game? Do you garner respect in the yard? They're
if you can pull up and you're a level 7 mage. You know what I mean?
No one's fucking with you.
What's a cleric supposed to do with that?
Yeah. It's that motherfucking casts these spells. You do not look him in the eye. In the mess hall.
Yeah, okay, all right. We got 2 paladins over here. What the fuck? What are we supposed to do with that?
People are giving these dudes their apples at lunchtime as offerings of respect because they'll destroy you in that fantasy world.
Yeah, no, you're out there in the yard, you're lifting, you see some I don't know, druid elf guys over there doing their thing. There's a dwarf half-breed over here. But if you're a mage, who's testing a level 17 mage? No
right.
one.
It's
no
not
one.
you're playing against a drunk leprechaun. like drinking booze, playing in punk bands, creeping through doors. Like, you can cast a spell and get rid of them real fast.
You know what else we get rid of real fast?
Night cookies.
Any idea?
Midnight cookies.
Night cookies.
I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.